Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting to you live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with a fine episode of Rabbi Stuart Federow. I'm going to talk to you about his book, Judaism and Christianity, A Contrast. It's going to be a great show. We're going to have many different topics we're covering today. And so coming to you from Houston, Texas, all the way to Kingsland, Texas, I'd like to introduce you to our beloved Rabbi of the day, Rabbi Stuart Federow.
Stuart Allen Federow.
Stuart Allen Federow.
Right. And by the way, you can tell I am actually in person, in studio, because look at this.
You did that earlier, and I did catch it.
Early, see? Rabbit ears. All right.
That's why I get good reception, because I've always got him doing this in the background. Very good, very good. Well, you know what? There's been a lot of anticipation, probably more for me, I think, because I constantly think about who's coming to the studio and who's doing interviews and stuff. And I'm confessing, I'm hooked on the middle of reading your book. I started it, and actually, I can't even go on to something else until I finish that, but I haven't had time to move on to anything yet. So here's what I'm thinking might be kind of cool if you're feeling up to it. There are many people out there who didn't even know you wrote a book, like the guy who just called.
Oh, you wrote a book?
Okay. And there's people out here who are watching now who know about your book, who maybe don't have the book. So if you were to describe this book in just a brief, we jumped right into this, didn't we?
Why not?
No small talk or anything, man.
So, how are you doing?
I'm fine. It's good to see you, man. Very good, very good. Get filter fish. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, well, just to give you some details of the day, we had a neat meeting in what was it called? Spicewood, yes. Right. I always go past it, but I never stop there because their gas is too expensive. Okay, so if you work at that store,
just kidding.
Food is great. So I was able to pick up Rabbi Federow there. I'll be delivering him later into Austin, so we'll get to spend some windshield time together. Yes, and it's definitely an honor to have you here.
Oh, believe me, it's my pleasure. I'm so jealous of you to be able to do all of this.
You know what?
You know every dial on this thing. You know exactly how to do this and put it together. I'm jealous.
If it was not for my dear friends, Mr. T. We just agreed to call him Mr. T for reasons. He's the bomb. And Pete, my dear friend from Cedar Park, yes, Georgetown area.
You are lucky to have them.
They totally have full responsibility for all of this functioning. All I do is come in and I take this little punch list that Pete kind of typed up for me on all these. Gosh, I hope I never get these out of order. All this stuff. As long as I follow this, we have a broadcast.
Okay. Yes.
Wow, those lights are bright. Look at this. We should have done a white balance test. Can't read it. That's okay. Okay. So anyway, with all that said, thank you both guys. And it is truly without their help telling me what to buy. And Justin Karp also, this little guy down here that looks like a transformer, that master computer. Justin Karp is one who jumped on our team. He's here about once or twice a month to help us. He basically recommended this all these computer pieces, and he built this transformer.
Well, I'm jealous. Like. I'm telling you, I wish I could do all this.
So really, all I am is a voice, and that is it. Right. A few buttons.
This is the voice of William.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So,
okay. So my book.
Back on track.
Yes.
Rabbi, we need to get that book over here.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I've got it. It's fine.
Do you have one here?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, good. Oh, actually, we have it on the screen too. In fact, if you guys will pay close attention, you'll see a picture of a handsome guy on your screen. And
who is that man?
The picture of his awesome book. This is a great time for you, Rabbi, to take us on a quick journey. You can do it on one foot if you want to, because I'm sure we're going to redirect and have more questions based on the things that you say.
Right. Okay. Let's start back. Actually, I don't know, 15 years ago, I heard about the beloved organization called Jews for Jesus that was beginning a campaign all over the country, going to cities with 25,000 Jews or more in those cities to do major missionary work. And they were going to be going to Seattle, Washington as one of their stops. It was called the Behold Your God campaign. And they were going to be going door to door, putting up billboards, taking out full page ads in newspapers. And
I find it funny they called it Behold Your God, not Behold Our God.
Right, yes, well,
that's interesting.
Well, you do know where that phrase, they don't realize it, but where that phrase came from is when the children of Israel were about to commit the sin of idolatry by the golden calf. They said, "Behold, Israel, your gods."
Gotcha.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So, at any rate, I decided that there's got to be a way to fight them, and I wanted to put in a full-page ad explaining what Jews believe, real Jews believe, and why we believe it based on explicitly Scripture.
Okay, let me
Tanakh.
insert a few questions for you along the way.
Yes,
because I know I'm probably answering or asking questions a lot of people are curious about.
of course.
So, in your past, have you ever been Christian?
Never.
Have you ever been Messianic?
Never.
Have you ever worshipped Baal?
No.
Sorry.
No, I get no.
That's
William. You
funny.
laugh, but I get asked that. Were you born Jewish?
Right.
Or how'd you become a Jew?
The whole Baal thing came from David Solomon because he's doing this lecture and he's always throwing funnies out. And he's talking about how the Baal movement came into play, and he just makes a statement. He says, and I'm sure most of us here have never worshipped Baal.
Right.
So anyway, you've been Jewish your whole life.
Yes, born and raised in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
Used to be called the Buckle on the Bible Belt because right in the middle of the United States. International headquarters of the Assemblies of God Church, which is major tenet is to missionize Jews to Christianity. 5 colleges. There's Central Bible College, Baptist Bible College, and Evangel College. Baptist Bible College is where Jerry Falwell got his bachelor's degree from. So the milieu, the kind of place I grew up in, people from birth trying to convert me to Christianity.
So you heard all the messages, and I mean, thoroughly.
Oh yeah.
Because you know what's going to happen is you're going to have somebody who's going to eventually see this video, and they'll say, "Well, the guy's been Jewish his whole life. He doesn't even know the gospel message."
Right.
So what do you say to that person right now?
That I could explain it better than they can.
I believe
you asked.
I totally believe you. That's why I laugh, because I get it. That's awesome.
Yes.
Now,
as a matter of fact, it happened so often through the first couple of years of high school that I counted 22 times in my junior year of high school where friends, they were friends, sat me down. Now, Stuart, we want to show you things in the Bible because we have questions to ask you explicitly trying to convert me. Right. So, yes, grew up with it.
Okay. I'm going to throw one at you.
Okay.
Okay. In Judaism, they say you don't need a blood sacrifice for sin.
Right.
Right. So how do you explain the death of King David's son?
Well, remember, all of our behaviors have repercussions.
Okay.
Okay. If we sin, best example that I use is pollution.
Okay.
If our generation, that includes you, William, if our generation pollutes the air, the next generation will breathe that polluted air.
So natural consequences.
Natural consequences.
Okay.
In other words, they will get sick from the pollution. Some, God forbid, may die if we pollute too badly. Mm-hmm. But if they die, that takes away our guilt for having polluted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
No, it means that they suffer as a result of our sinning by polluting the air. Mm-hmm. Same thing with King David's son.
Got it.
Okay, but his death didn't take away King David's sin.
Gotcha.
But his death was a result of King David's having sinned.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, but I don't buy that, because Jesus is clearly in Isaiah 53:5. By his stripes we have been healed.
Right.
What's with the stripes? This really happened to J-Man.
Yes.
Respectably. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm trying to be careful here. So, okay.
There's no reason to be careful.
Okay.
But
Yashke. No,
yes. Yeah. Him too.
Okay.
Anybody can take any verse of our scriptures, and they are completely and totally free to interpret it in any way they wish to interpret it.
Okay.
I can take a verse, I can give it an interpretation. You can come along and you can see the same verse and you can give it a different interpretation. I will believe my interpretation is correct. You will believe your interpretation is correct. If another person comes along and they see my interpretation, they may say, I am right, you are wrong with the interpretation of that same verse. But all we have is my opinion of the verse, your opinion of the verse, and the guy who reads our works, their opinion of the verse.
Got it.
Nobody's opinion, let's start over. Nobody can come along and say, this opinion is right, this opinion is wrong, except in my opinion. And all opinions are unfortunately equal. However, if I have an interpretation of a verse that contradicts the simple, basic, elemental understanding that one gets from another verse, then I have to examine my interpretation of that verse in light of the verse that's simply understood And if it contradicts it, I have to be wrong.
Right, got it.
So
Got it.
if Deuteronomy 24:16 explicitly says, Ish bechet'o yumatu, that...
Oh, wait, you know Hebrew?
A little bit. Not
We'll get
much.
into that
but a little
later.
bit,
We'll
yes.
touch on that later. Okay.
Right. But if the verse says, every man shall be put to death for his own sin, as a matter of fact, let me tell you, I know this may come as a shock to you, but I'm not a nice person. So the doorbell rings.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, it's a missionary. Pick a denomination, doesn't matter. Same thing happens to all of them. Oh, thank you for coming. I've had so many questions. God must have sent you to me right now. No joke. I invite them in. Can I get you something? Would you like some water? You know, and they're thrilled because they think they've gotten into heaven already. Okay. They sit down and, okay, I call it letting their yo-yo run out. You ever seen a yo-yo?
Yeah.
And then slowly, okay, fine. So they always have their prepared speech. And it's interesting because when they give the witness, they never say, they never hesitate. Every word comes out. They cry on cue. I mean, it's like an act. Okay.
Right.
If I'm in a really bad mood, I might applaud them and say, you did that very well. But I don't. When they're done, when their yo-yo's done and run out, okay, I say, well, do you have a Bible? They say, absolutely. And I say, well, I have a question. So I turn to Deuteronomy 24:16, keep the place. And I say to them, can you tell me in one sentence exactly what Jesus did for you? They have to say, he died for my sins. There is no other one sentence statement that they can give.
That's the same sentence I was thinking of.
Of course.
Died for my sins.
Because they have to say that.
Right.
Then I hand them the book and I say, would you please read out loud Deuteronomy 24:16? It's their Bible. They gave it to me. It's their translation. They can't say it's a bad translation. And they'll read, no man shall be put to death for the sins of his children, no child shall be put to death for the sins of his parents, but every man shall be put to death for his own sin. And I say, wait a minute, you just read every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Then how can Jesus die for your sin? You just said every man dies for his own sin. And invariably, oh, look at the time. We really got to go on. You're going to have to excuse it. And they leave. They run as fast as they can out of the door. Wow. And so that's the same thing with Isaiah 53.
Right.
Doesn't matter if they are interpreting a scriptural verse in a way that violates the plain, obvious, simple, peshat meaning of another verse, you have to reject their interpretation.
Very good.
It's that simple.
Very good.
You take a look at other verses in the Hebrew scriptures. Deuteronomy 24:16 comes to mind. Numbers 23:19. If God were a man, to be a liar.
Isaiah 43:11.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can't. Another story I always tell, which may or may not be in my book, but if a Martian were to land on the earth, check into a hotel, open up a drawer and pull out the Gideon Bible, if they read it from Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and go to the end of the Gideon Bible, which includes the appendix to the Bible called the Christian New Testament, the term Bible means the Hebrew scriptures.
Okay.
The Jews were calling the Bible Tabiblia, the Jews of Greece, long hundreds of years before Jesus was even born. So they're taking our Bible and then calling it the Bible when they add their appendix to it called the New Testament. Not a fair use of the term, but I'll let it go.
I was thinking.
Okay. But if a Martian comes, lands, starts reading with Genesis, when he gets to Matthew, he's going to say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense now in contrast with what I just read from the Hebrew scriptures. If the same Martian lands, goes to a hotel to check in, goes to the drawer, pulls out the Gideon Bible and reads from the New Testament first, then starts the Hebrew scriptures, it might make sense to them, maybe.
Right.
So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't believe in opposite ideas at the same time. I wrote the book originally because there's just so much in our society that tries to make Judaism and Christianity look the same. Okay, you've got the secular world that wants to treat all the religious communities, they're all the same. They just want to treat everybody, all religion is bunk, therefore all religion is the same. You have the liberal community, okay, which, well, don't want to step on anybody's toes because I know you're a leftist liberal. They're, kumbaya, we should all get along. We're all alike anyway. The same thing, the same push to see everything is the same. Okay. The politically conservative community, because the support that Christians give to the state of Israel, don't want to rock that boat. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's a push, and even in meetings, events where you've got Jews and Christians together, they sweep the differences under the carpet, and they only talk about how they're similar.
You're right.
Right. So part of the reason I wrote my book is to respond not just to missionaries, but to the idea that all religions are the same, Judaism and Christianity are the same, except Jews don't happen to believe in Jesus. It's a response. That's why it's called Judaism and Christianity, a contrast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the whole thing started with my website, whatjewsbelieve.org. Okay, whatjewsbelieve.org. Because the Jews for Jesus were going to mount this campaign, and I was trying to get a full-page ad with all this information about what we believe and why. And I realized, do you have any idea how expensive a full-page ad is in any newspaper in the country?
Mm-hmm.
Not cheap. So I thought, all I need is one little square about this big, okay, that says why we don't believe in Jesus. Okay, and then the website.
Right.
I put the original website together in about 3 days, okay, with the help of friends literally all over the country, like your friends were helping you put together.
Sure.
Have I told you I'm jealous of your ability to do this? Okay. And that's how What Jews Believe came into existence.
Gotcha.
Then What Jews Believe, the original text got translated into creenciajudia.org, which is a Spanish translation.
Oh, right. So that's a whole new website,
it's
right?
a different website.
Okay.
Creencia Judia.
So CREENCIAJUDIA.org.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Because
I'm not smart. I just read it off the paper.
Because I thought you knew Spanish. Because
that's awesome. Thanks, man.
The Spanish community, especially the Catholic community, was starting to get sucked in by the Messianic community. Yes.
I'm big.
Have a water.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Very good. Thanks, man.
Okay.
All right.
So that's how I got started with those two websites, because it's easier to put a little sign in a newspaper than it does a whole page of the information.
Got it.
So I also found out that even a little bitty square this big in the Seattle newspaper, when Jews for Jesus was going to come there, was $300 I didn't have.
Oh my gosh.
But wow. I still had the website. And then with all the things going on in the world, I knew I had to write a book that would just talk about the differences and how we are not the same. Okay, how Judaism and Christianity contrast with each other.
Thank you for that, because I hear a lot of people, and I know it's genuine. I know it's in an attempt to keep peace, but it's very critical, I think, for people like myself, like even the friends that I know, to know what the drastic contrasting differences are. It's not so.
Yes.
There really isn't. I don't know if you saw the ad for this coming Wednesday for Rabbi Skovak.
Yes.
The little White House thing ripped in half.
Yes.
That's really how dynamically opposing that it is to each other. I mean, if you want to see that there are similarities, you can say, well, we're flesh, we're human.
Right.
We live on the same planet.
Right. But these distinctions mean nothing.
Oh my
These
gosh.
similarities mean nothing.
Right. It's the differences
right.
that really.
Right. It's the differences that make us who we are. You notice there's something that goes on in cities all over the world called interfaith dialogue, which is no dialogue at all, because they're so afraid of talking about differences, how we don't agree on issues.
Mm-hmm.
All they talk about is where Jews and Christians agree, or Jews and Christians and Muslims agree. You know what that means? That means if I can only talk about how you and I are the same,
mm-hmm.
It means you're not seeing me for who I am.
Right.
You are seeing yourself in me.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really liking, if it's an interfaith dialogue in quotes, you're not liking me for me. You're liking the you see in me.
Right.
Because we're only talking about similars. It's not real dialogue.
Right.
We only actually dialogue when I can show you where we disagree and you respect me in spite of the fact that you may disagree with me.
Well said.
Which, by the way, is what I do every week on my radio show with a Roman Catholic priest, a Southern Baptist minister, and myself. It's called The Show of Faith. Go to ashowoffaith.org, and it's broadcast.
Do you have that on this list? Because I'm keeping this piece of paper.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll put it down.
Okay, write that on there too.
I will.
A showoffaith.org.
ashowoffaith.org has podcasts, and it has a way to email us while we're on the air. It's a live call-in talk show in the Houston airwaves, 1070 AM 1070 theanswer.com. You can listen while it's on the air too.
Is it available on the internet for people out of the country or out of the state?
Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, AM 1070 The Answer means you can listen while we're on the air.
Oh, cool. So they
when our yes, it's a live call-in show, and we get calls Seattle, Colorado, Florida.
Very good.
Yes, St. Louis, all over the place.
So you write, and while you guys are thinking about numbers, call 855-95-BIBLE. It's at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions you'd like to ask the rabbi, the lines are open. It's obviously the music is too. So so that's good. So 855-95-BIBLE. That's 855-952-4253. If you're watching from a cell phone and don't have the alphabet, and
I've watched Tovia on here who's forgotten more than I will ever know, and he himself says, "Go easy on me." So I'm saying the same thing. Go easy on me.
Very good. And don't expect too much. But okay, now let's go back now, because I kind of I derailed us off of talking about your book.
That's fine.
Lead us now up to so you were born Jewish.
Yes, born in Springfield, Missouri.
Were you born a religious Jew or a secular Jew?
Religious Jew. My house was strictly kosher.
Okay.
My father's business was closed on Saturdays. Okay. Springfield, Missouri had one building that housed two congregations, an Orthodox congregation and a Reformed congregation in the same building.
Okay.
My family went to services on the Orthodox side, and they called it, which side are you on? Literally.
Wow.
Okay. So we were, but everybody got along. Everybody helped each other. The rabbi was a German immigrant who came before the Holocaust. He was what I would call a Holocaust refugee. And he was the rabbi till my sophomore year of high school, but he was German Reform, Judaism. Okay. But coming from Europe, he had a more traditional view. Okay. So the religious school was Reform. Okay. The religious school was Reform. Okay. But we had an Orthodox room, a room for the Orthodox services. We dubbed it out of the Birnbaum prayer book. There was no English. Okay. So I grew up with what I would call an Orthodox upbringing in Springfield, Missouri. Okay. But I various reasons I won't go into, mainly just simply being told, no, we won't help you. The only movement that helped us create a youth group was the Reform movement. So I had a Reform movement for youth group. We used to go to Joplin, Missouri, 70 miles one way every 2 weeks, so that the kids in Springfield, Missouri could get to know other Jewish kids. In all of Springfield, my whole county, all right, Greene County, Missouri, there were 4 kids my age who was Jewish, and I was one of them. So very small Jewish community.
Very good.
Constant, every Jewish holiday I had to, hello, Stuart, why don't you tell us what Hanukkah is all about? So I would bring my little paraphernalia, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. Okay. So that's what I grew up in. So
question, in your environment, were you at the same school pretty much the whole time?
Yes, I was grade school, middle school.
So were they accepting of you, or were they more?
They were accepting of me, but I was always I'll give you an example. I played high school football and middle school football. The coach for high school, every year, make sure Federow gets a helmet big enough to fit over his Jewish nose. So it was interesting growing up in Springfield, Missouri. Yes.
Okay.
Buckle on the Bible belt.
Wow.
So I was exposed to Christian missionary activity from a very young age.
Gotcha.
So I've always been fascinated. I think this is how God drew me to become a rabbi.
Okay. So at what point in your life did you decide that it was going to be your choice to, because I was
11.
Whenever you totally committed yourself
to become a rabbi.
That's nice.
I know, I'm weird.
I hear that you hear the joke frequently about, this rabbi who bought this building in New York and it was flooded with mice, and he called the other rabbi.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Finish that joke for me.
How do we get rid of the mice? bar mitzvah them and then they won't come back.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and I've been hearing more and more stories about
right.
people with that testimony. What's funny is I didn't get the joke, but I laughed anyway because I'm not
Actually,
Jewish.
I have heard the
you know?
same thing from the Catholic priest, the same thing from the Baptist minister, but confirm them and they won't come back.
That's
everybody.
how
All the
funny.
religions are having the same
kidding.
problems. Yes.
Okay, so but it took an adverse effect positively on you then. So
Absolutely, yes.
Gotcha. So how did you what was different about your young adult life, your young teenage life than?
I don't know, because there are two people who were ever born and raised in Springfield, Missouri, who grew up to be rabbis. Now, the rabbi's son, but he actually was born in Germany, grew up to be a rabbi in Pittsburgh, but he wasn't born in Springfield, Missouri. There's only one other person who was born and raised in Springfield who grew up to become a rabbi. So most Jews growing up in Springfield, Missouri in that environment did not become rabbis. So I don't know what was different, but again, I had a very strong house, Jewishly. Okay. Strictly kosher home.
Do you have siblings in the house?
Yes, I grew up, I was the youngest of three boys.
Okay.
Harold, my oldest brother, who's in Seattle, Washington, and my middle brother, Michael, may he rest in peace.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Also, was your family accepting of your drive to study Tanakh?
No.
Okay. Tell us about that a little bit. Seriously.
Remember you asked?
Yes.
My mother and father did not want me to become a rabbi because, in their words, they did not want me to be at the mercy of the sisterhood.
Interesting.
Now, there are plenty of people who are listening who are Jewish are going, I know what he means by that. But I've been lucky. My congregations have been fabulous. I've only had really 3 of them. My first pulpit at a seminary was Greenville, Mississippi. 5 fabulous years. Second pulpit was in Lancaster, California, but that was only 2 years. California and my family didn't get along very well. Came back to Houston, which is where Lisa, my wife, may she rest in peace, was from. And accidentally backed into the Hillel. Hillel is the college campus organization, like Baptist Student Union or Catholic Newman Center, Lutheran Campus Ministry, but Hillel is the Jewish campus organization. So I was the director for all the campuses in the greater Houston area for 6 years, and then came to Shar Shalom in Clear Lake 20 years ago. I've been the rabbi there 20 years.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes. So.
Very good. So, okay. So you have so you're out of high school now, and so you're faced with the decision now.
Right. Well, college comes
several
first.
Decisions.
Yes, college comes first.
Okay.
I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And studied under Jacob Neusner, who
Jacob Neusner, is that like the Chumash guy? Really? Oh, that's cool.
He's authored 900 plus books.
Oh, wow.
900.
Neusner. Isn't that the
Jacob Neusner? Yes.
Is that the ones that we're giving out? Neusner. I think it is actually.
That what?
We have some. We're giving out. About every 2 weeks. Is that the same? No, Hertz. J.H. Hertz. But Jacob.
Oh,
Neusner,
you're talking about the Chumash.
Yeah, the Chumash.
Right.
Yeah.
Neusner wrote a book on the Mishnah, Talmud. He's written on.
That's where I've seen his name.
By the way,
that book.
if you take a look at my at the bibliography at the back of the book, or for that matter on the websites, you will see that one of the books I quote is a book by him, which is called Jews and Christians: The Myth of a Common Tradition.
Okay.
Okay. He just came out with an ebook. This man is in his late 80s. Goodness. Maybe 90s by now. He just came out with an ebook, which is called Christians and Jews, different people with different, it's something like different peoples with different concerns. He used to say in college that Jews and Christians are different people with different assumptions who are speaking to different people about different issues.
Interesting. Wow.
His image of the Jews were like ships in the night who really couldn't communicate with each other because our assumptions are different, our interests are different, our concerns are different, and it's hard to speak to people who have different assumptions, different concerns, and different issues.
Okay.
So
you have at this point you went to college. At what point did you take your first rabbi position?
It was 1982.
Okay, so how old were you then?
1982, I was 29. The good old days.
calculator.
Born in 1953. 62-year-old man.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. So very good. And so since then it was never looking back, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, at what point did you decide to write the book?
I decided to write the book when so many things around me were shouting about we're all alike, everything's great. Okay. What's that one Facebook page? Judaism and Christianity are not this. Judaism is not Christianity without Jesus.
Oh yeah. I've seen that. Right.
Okay. There are plenty of wonderful Facebook pages like, for example, Spiritual Babies.
Yes. Jason,
Spiritual Babies.
Thank you, Jason, for covering my website a minute ago. Appreciate that.
Yes. And Jason, if you go to spiritualbabies.net, besides interviews with Rabbi Skobach, Rabbi Singer, you'll also find some with Rabbi Federow.
Yes.
So, yes.
And just in case there are people out there who are tuning into this broadcast and haven't really watched anybody else's, you definitely want to check out spiritualbabies.net. You want to check out Jono and Jason at truth2you.org because all of these resources are providing lots and lots of support and information, and all these rabbis like Rabbi Federow, and just as he mentioned, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Tovia Singer, and other teachers as well. So if this is definitely not the end all of end alls.
I am going to completely embarrass you because I'm telling you, seriously, William.
Yes.
People like you, people like Jason, Spiritual Babies, okay, Jono. I mean, there are people out there who are thirsting for Judaism, for Torah, for God. And except for venues like this, okay, like Tanakh Talk, like spiritualbabies.net, they'd flounder. They don't know where to go. And whether by accident or on purpose, they find these things, these websites and these Facebook pages and everything else. I don't know what they would get.
Sure.
And it is such an incredible service that you are all doing for the worldwide Jewish community. I don't think you realize it. I really don't. I don't think you realize how important it is because what's the word? Nature fills a vacuum. And when people start questioning and follow the classic path of horrible, oh my God, reading on their own, coming up with questions because, like we said earlier, the New Testament doesn't match the Hebrew Scriptures, contradicts the Hebrew Scriptures in so many different ways on so many different issues, come up with questions, ask their ministers, get accused of being satanic, okay, wind up going to other forms of Christianity like the Messianic Jews, okay, same questions get asked, still get no answers, and then where do they go?
Right.
They can wind up in all sorts of different places, cults, no religion,
Sure.
They can wind up because they learn not to trust Judaism from Christianity, even though they left Christianity. What are they left with but Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism?
Sure.
Okay. So it is an incredible service that you are doing, that Jason Spiritual Babies is doing, that Jono is doing, okay, and all these other people who I have not named. And you really should be very happy with what you're doing. You should be very proud of what you're doing. You should be very, we are very happy for it.
I'm very grateful that that you were willing to come here, and the rabbi, all the rabbis
anytime
are
I can,
willing to dedicate their time.
Marcy, my wife, when she gives me permission,
yes,
I will be here.
That's awesome. And,
Hi, Marcy.
and my heart and my thanks do go out, like I said, tremendously to you and all the other rabbis, because without you guys, there wouldn't be a Tanakh Talk. There wouldn't be a spiritualbabies.net. There wouldn't be, these other shows. Yeah. Y'all are willing to, reach out and do this. And we really greatly appreciate that. And so we have a caller. Let's take this caller. Caller, welcome to Tanakh Talk. Do you have a question for our lovely rabbi today?
Lovely. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Who do we have on the phone with us?
First of all, I want to thank you guys for all the work you were doing. And I have a question to the rabbi.
If I can.
There's a movement that they don't accept the Trinity.
Say it again.
The virginal birth.
Could you actually repeat that phrase?
Or the Yeshua is Hashem. They don't accept that, but they still say that he's HaMashiach.
Okay, I got you. Tell me if this is right. I'm going to repeat this. That way I know I understood your question, Rabbi,
Okay.
too. There's a movement out there that does not believe in the Trinity, and they don't they don't believe that he is God
or divine,
but they still believe that he was the Messiah.
Well, first of all,
Yeah, they don't believe in the virgin birth, even though it's really explicit in the New Testament.
Right.
But they say it was fabricated because they know that he has to be from the Zera, from David, you know?
Right, yes.
From Shlomo and David.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the question. That's the question. If how do we respond to them? Because
all right.
Okay, we're going to take this. We're going to get this question answered for you. What is your name?
Okay.
What was your name?
Mine is Joseph.
Joseph, where are you calling from?
Thank you.
Where are you calling from, Joseph?
Thank you, Will.
Where are you calling from?
Thank you. Oh, I'm calling from Florida.
Florida.
Great.
That's fantastic. Joseph, thank you so much for your question. That's a great one.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.
That is a really cool question. I've
It's a
heard
very good
something
question.
like that
I've had
before.
people who think that they're ingratiating themselves to the Jews because they'll say, "Oh, we don't believe in the Trinity.
Right.
We don't believe there was a virgin birth. We don't believe in any of that." But he was still the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is explicitly covered in my book, by the way, because Jews and Christians use the same terminology, but they don't mean the same thing to the Jews as they mean to the Christians.
Like Mashiach, maybe?
Like Mashiach, or Messiah, the English, I don't know what to call it, transliteration, okay, of the word Mashiach. Sin, okay, that we don't understand in the same way, even though we use the same words. By the way, it's our word.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're sitting there reading the newspaper, half the lights go out in your house. You go to the phone, you pick up the phone book or you Google the number because you're looking for what kind of person to help you get the lights back on.
Okay.
What are you looking for? An electrician?
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay. So you call the electrician. 30 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. There's the knock. Did you hear
it? Your timing is excellent.
Of course. They called on purpose. No. Okay. So there's a knock on the door, and you go to the door and you open it, and breezing past you into your house is a guy carrying pipes and wrenches. And he says, "Okay, I'm the electrician. Where's your faucet that's bad?"
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Okay. He goes to the faucet. There's nothing wrong. He goes to the toilets. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fix. He leaves. 10 minutes after that, there's another knock on the door. And it's your next door neighbor saying, "Hey, I just saw Bill the electrician. Wasn't he fabulous?" You say, "Wait a minute. He didn't do anything. The same things that were wrong in my world, in my house, before he came are still wrong. He hasn't fixed anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's not an electrician." And your neighbor says, No, he's an electrician. And you say, "No, he's not an electrician. Electricians fix electricity. That's the definition of the term."
He's going to fix it when he comes back.
Exactly. And until he comes back and does the things he's supposed to do as an electrician, you're supposed to believe he's an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
Well, excuse me, it's our word. It's a Hebrew word invented by the Jews about a Jewish man who comes to the Jewish people, and through coming to the Jewish people makes an effect on the entire world, as defined by the Hebrew scriptures written in the Hebrew language, the language of the Jews, as interpreted by the Jews. It's our word.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the right to come along and say we've got the wrong definition when we're the ones who invented the word. Okay. By the way, do you have to clean your bananas that you're wearing to look through? Because those are bananas.
Are they? Okay.
See, no, if I can change the word Messiah to a Christian definition, or electrician to plumber, I can change these things on your glass. Those aren't glasses. Those are bananas.
Right.
See my point?
Yep, totally.
Okay. Well, there's two definitions to the term Messiah. There is the Hellenist, pagan, idolatrous definition of some man who was, oh wait, they don't believe he's God anymore, but he died for your sin, which is a Hellenist concept. Okay. Think of all the demigods, semi-gods, okay, who follow the same pattern. Okay. And then there's the Jewish concept of our word, of a Jewish man born in the same way that all people come into existence. Okay. There could be kids out there. We have to watch what we say. And who do explicit things as determined by the Jews, by interpretation of the Hebrew scriptures, okay, in the real world, the world you can see out your window, the world you can perceive with your own senses. So to answer Joseph's question, they can claim that they are closer to, let me rephrase that. They can claim that they're further away from idolatry because they don't believe Jesus was God, and they don't believe in a Trinity, and they don't believe in a virgin birth. But as long as they are still maintaining this Hellenist, pagan, idolatrous concept of a Messiah where he died for their sins in direct violation of what the Bible says, which we talked about 10 minutes ago, every man shall be put to death for his own sin, Deuteronomy 24:16, numerous other places it says that.
Okay, now let me throw this wrench in there.
Yes.
Because I don't remember whether Joseph said that they believed that he was a sin sacrifice. So let's assume for a moment.
I think he was implying that that's what they still believed, even though they rejected the other parts.
Okay, so let me twist it then.
Okay.
What do you say if there's a few of the people in his sect that he's talking about that don't believe he was a sin sacrifice either, but they still believe he is the Messiah? Is that even possible?
No. How could it be possible?
I didn't think so. Yeah.
By the way, that means you're the Messiah and I'm the Messiah. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I learned this from Mark Powers. Okay, Mark Powers is Magain. That most people know Jews for Judaism. There's Magain. There's a number of national organizations. I think Michael Skoback even says this. I think that Tovia says this. So at any rate, I'm the Messiah. You're the Messiah.
Interesting.
My dad was the Messiah. Well, he may not have done it yet, but he was going to come back and do it.
Right, and there's no way to prove it. There's no way to prove it.
Well, there's faith.
Right.
You have to have faith.
Yeah.
I gotta have faith.
Sorry, George Michael. On
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, and by the way, I'm keeping my phone handy because this is my alert if something goes array on the broadcast. People message me and say, "Hey, man, no sound." So, and that was actually a message from the guy with JApp. If you don't have JApp for your phone, you should look into downloading it because there's a lot of awesome videos and podcast stuff that's available. And from what I hear, I hope he's actually maybe working on another application that will even broaden the spectrum some. Right. So
I hope so too.
Yeah. So okay. So very, very well. So to really just in one or two sentences as a summary to answer Joseph's what is something you can give him, something easy to remember that he can deliver.
So long as a person holds to the Christian concept of messiahship,
which means savior of the world, dying for your sins.
Exactly. That whole bit, they are still within a Christian camp. They have not come any closer to Judaism just because they reject the Trinity or reject the deity of Jesus. Okay. They are still looking at messianism, at messiahship from a Hellenist, Christian, pagan, idolatrous viewpoint.
Which is why the Messianic Jews are
still
viewed
Christian.
As Christian.
They are Christian.
Right, because they believe in the Christian Messiah. Even though they say it's not the Christian Messiah, it's Yeshua versus Jesus.
Well, but remember...
Same things, though.
But remember, they are purposefully avoiding using those terminology because they don't want to turn off or turn away their targets.
Right, the Jews.
Which are the Jews who would be turned off if they show that they're really still Christians, which they are. Which is exceptionally deceptive.
Sure.
But that follows Paul in 1 Corinthians 9, where he says, I will pretend to be a Jew to the Jew. I will pretend to be a Greek to the Greek. I'll pretend to be anything I can be to get even some of them to convert.
Right.
Okay. He also said in his letter, I think it's 1 Timothy, where he said, whether in pretense or in truth, I bring people to Jesus, and in that I'm happier. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but he distinguishes between pretense and truth, and he says it's okay to use both. There's another place, and I can't remember chapter and verse in the Christian's New Testament, their appendix to our Bible, where he even is ecstatically happy, Paul writes, about how great and wonderful his deception has worked. And I can't remember exactly the verse. I'll have to refresh my memory.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So let's get back on your book now.
Fine.
Your book is an overview.
My book is an overview of those areas that are the most basic elements of Christian theology.
Differences.
And how they differ with Judaism.
Good.
So the idea of a Trinity is covered in my book. The idea of what is really meant by a Messiah and how Jesus does not fulfill that. The idea of God and man. Every pagan religion confuses man with God. Okay. Jews have 3 holidays that distinguish between God is God, humans are human. God does not become a human, and humans don't become God. Okay, we have Passover. Okay, Passover, people confuse the plagues as saying they were against the Egyptians. They were not against the Egyptians. Read the Bible. Amazes me how people say, oh, I know the Bible. I've read it 10 times. You ask them simple questions about the Bible, and they have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
But if you actually pick up the Bible and read it, you will see that the plagues were against the gods of the Egyptians. And every single plague has a matching god or gods that they were attacking. So they worshipped the Nile. Well, Moses struck the Nile and made it bleed.
Blood, right.
Okay. They worshipped the sun, Ra. Well, darkness for 3 days. They're direct attacks on the gods believed in by the Egyptians.
Right.
But they also believed that Pharaoh was a god. And the 10th plague in the Hebrew scriptures, it goes out of its way to say that the 10th plague went all the way up to the throne of Pharaoh. It goes out of its way to say that. Why? Because, sorry, Pharaoh, you're not God. Remember, what did the firstborn become? In almost every religion, they became the priests of the pagan religions. So in one fell swoop, God is not just destroying the next god that they're going to have, which is the next Pharaoh, the firstborn son of the Pharaoh. He's also destroying the priests for the next generation by killing the firstborn. Okay, so Passover celebrates subtly the distinction between men and God. Sorry, Pharaoh, you're not God. Okay, the holiday of Purim. Okay, why did Haman... Hello?
Boo!
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hello?
Hey, if you had said that at home, everybody in the house would have been boo!
Why did that man, hate the Jews?
Right.
Because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him. Sorry, Haman Boo-Hiss, you're not God.
Yep.
Okay. What about Hanukkah? Okay. Hanukkah, Antiochus, the Hellenized Syrian, who made war against the Jews who tried to forbid the practice of Judaism, in the book of 1st and 2nd Maccabees, First Maccabees, it explicitly says that Antiochus called himself Antiochus Epiphanes, which means Antiochus, who is God made manifest. Sorry, Antiochus, you're not God. Sorry, Pharaoh, you're not God. Sorry, Haman Boo-Hiss, you're not God. So 3 holidays distinguish between men and God.
Very nice.
And that's another element of how we contrast with Christianity.
Real quickly, since we kind of touched on Passover.
Yes.
I'm surprised to see so many Christians out there. I guess I maybe shouldn't be surprised because I didn't really realize the connection for a long time, even after being a Christian. I'm the son of a preacher man who turned Messianic.
That's a great
my
song.
grandfather. The connection with Easter and Passover to the most of the Christians, they probably have never even heard of Passover unless they saw the wrong translation in their English Bible. And even still yet, they don't even think that they're technically supposed to be the same things according to the Christian church. Now,
they're not.
But the idea of it's the same feast, if you will, and that's why they don't do Passover. That's why they do Easter instead, because we're not celebrating the slaughter of the lamb, but the resurrection of the lamb for a sacrifice.
You're right.
Go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of problems with all of that. Okay. You ask the average Christian and unfortunately the average Jew, and they'll say that the Last Supper of Jesus was a Passover Seder. Couldn't have been. It's impossible. Physically, it's impossible. Okay. Do you know why baseball is the national pastime? George Washington used to love to play baseball.
You got me on that. I have no idea.
How could George Washington have played baseball if they didn't invent baseball to the 1800s?
Okay, see, I didn't know that either.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's why I was kind of, I don't know. Baseball's been around for a long time.
In other words, okay, since you missed my obvious funny joke,
I'm sorry.
I thought it was hysterical.
You know what? Where's my happy button?
You know, the fake laughter. Okay. The reason why there's a Passover Seder, the reason why there's a Haggadah, the reason why there's a Seder plate is because Gamaliel II, about the year 80, 85, had to create a home-centered holiday because up until 70, Passover was celebrated by going to the temple. It was a pilgrimage festival. Shalosh Regalim. It was one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals.
Interesting.
When Jesus was alive, the temple still stood. So what did you do for Passover? It's in Exodus. It's repeated in Deuteronomy. You go to the temple, the place where my glory shall dwell, the place that my name will dwell. That's what it says in Deuteronomy. You pick up a lamb without blemish, you bring it home, okay? You slaughter it and you eat it with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is. Jesus wouldn't have known what a Passover Seder was because it hadn't been invented till about 50 years, give or take, after he was dead and buried.
Interesting.
So the idea of Jesus celebrating a Passover Seder is nonsense. That's why when all these Christian churches take our holiday and try to show what Jesus was doing by showing what a Passover Seder now is like is ludicrous.
Interesting.
But that's what they do.
Was there such thing as the fast of the firstborn in that culture?
Absolutely.
Was it possible? There's a group, I forget the name of them, Unlearned, I think it is on Facebook. They're trying to redirect the Christians into Messianic faith, into Messianic Judaism. And one thing they brought up was that it wasn't a Seder, that it was actually breaking the fast of the firstborn.
No.
Okay.
Because the Bible, Exodus, like I said, in Deuteronomy explicitly says that you get the Passover lamb and you eat it. And this is the whole family, not just
including
the firstborn. So they're not going to throw a feast just for the firstborn to break their fast. That's only a minor part of it and only for the firstborn sons. So it doesn't make sense to me that it's just to break it may have been used to break their fast, but the purpose of the meal wasn't to break their fast. The purpose of the meal was to remember the Exodus from Egypt. So it doesn't make sense to me.
This is something that doesn't get brought up a lot too, is that Passover, really, if there was any kind of redemption going on at all, it wasn't for the whole house. It was only for the firstborn son. Is that right? On Pesach?
Wait a minute. There was a redemption of the firstborn, but it still is the redemption of the entire people of Israel.
Right.
All the slaves, all the Hebrew slaves, even if they weren't firstborn, were freed. So it's the redemption of the entire people.
But I mean, the actual, the night of the original Passover, this angel of death that came, and it only affected the firstborn of the house.
That's yes,
firstborn male.
Right.
So would that be sort of the same carried over now? And another reason
it explicitly says, and I can't give you chapter and verse because I've never had the steel trap mind.
Sure.
You know, the Rabbi Skobek, Rabbi Singer have never had that kind of brain.
Right.
So I can't give you chapter and verse, but it explicitly says that this is where Pidyon Haben comes from. Okay.
Not to be confused with pig in the den. A rabbi said that. So I still
that's very funny. Yeah. As people mishear lyrics, they also miss or change the Hebrew in. So, but the Pidyon Haben, it said, all your firstborn belong to me. Okay. That's the animals, but your firstborn humans, firstborn sons, you will redeem,
right?
Which is Pidyon Haben, redeeming the firstborn son. Okay. So there's a reference to it, but that's one redemption, but it's the redemption of the entire people as a nation from slavery in Egypt that Passover celebrates. So I'm not quite sure where this Christian group is coming from.
Gotcha.
You know, there's a great book. I don't remember if it's even still in print. It's called The Jewish Connection or something like that. And the main theme is, if it can be misconstrued about the Jews, it has been misconstrued and it'll be misconstrued again.
Got it.
And this is another time where they're trying to take something Jewish. Funny to me how those groups, those religions, those faith, whose wells keep running out of water, will always go to our well because it's always full of water.
That's a very good point.
To quench their thirst for God. So they come and they take our holidays, they take our holy days, they take our life cycle events and invest them with their belief system, and thereby, in my opinion, pervert it.
WhatJewsBelieve.org. Can they find this book on the screen right now there?
Absolutely. They can go. They can get the book through there. They can get the book through you.
Through Amazon.
Through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, play.google.com. They can get it as a paperback, a hardbound. They can also get it as a Kindle, as a Nook, and as an ebook from play.google.com. Nook, Kindle, hardbound, paperback.
Now, for any of you lucky ones out there who has the old Kindle, the old white one that's like this big. Not the Kindle Fire. We have those too, but we actually bought his book on Kindle, and on the old white ones,
It'll read it to
it'll
you.
actually read it to
That's
you.
pretty cool.
So I can actually hear. It doesn't sound as as awesome as this guy's voice. In fact,
Yeah.
it's very mechanical, so you have to really pay attention. But you can get
Wait,
it in.
what did you
if
say? I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
Oh man. Okay. So carrying on further into your book, what
Yes.
are some of the you mentioned?
But it takes the basic presumptions of Christianity and shows how it contradicts what the Bible says.
Okay.
So the idea of what is the concept of the Messiah, God becoming human, the idea, the contrast between devil and Satan.
Oh,
Okay?
nice.
The devil made me. See, that's before your time.
Yeah.
You're such a young kid. I guess you didn't know that stand-up comedian who used to say that. The devil. I'll forget it.
No, but I did hear a joke that I thought was kind of funny that my dad actually told. My dad's a Messianic rabbi. He said, it said that God was walking down the street and saw Satan sitting on a corner, and he was crying. And God asked him, "So why are you crying?" He says, "Man, because everybody's always blaming me for everything."
That's pretty fun.
That's like, wow. My dad
Right.
said, "Okay, cool."
So in my book talks about the distinction between the Satan and the devil.
Okay.
Christian concept of the devil, the biblical and Jewish concept of the Satan. Let's see, talks about the distinction between man and God, talks about law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you read Paul in the Christian's New Testament, and he completely doesn't get it. He doesn't understand about law. He doesn't understand how it works generally. He doesn't understand how it works Jewishly. And so chapters in my book talk about Jewish law.
And this book is not a huge book. It's
No.
it's a very compact, very compressed, knowledge-wise too, very highly concentrated, if you will. So you can literally get a lot out of just this little pack. So rather than covering like a lot of area on one topic, it covers a lot of topics.
Right.
It really sums them up for
it's
you.
the basic elemental beliefs of Christianity and how they contrast and conflict with the Bible and with Judaism. So the idea of, does God need a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin? Let's see. Does God accept or even want a human sacrifice? You know, if you stop and think about it, if Christians say you have to have a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin, and they say that Jesus died for that sin, Jesus was the blood sacrifice, you have to ask the question, exactly who died on the cross? Was it Jesus the God? Because most Christianities believe that Jesus was divine, not like Joseph our caller.
Sure.
Okay. Who did the dying on the cross? If we have to have a blood sacrifice, what was that sacrifice of what blood? It can't be Jesus the God, because God can't die. So it's Jesus the human, which means their basis of their belief is a human sacrifice. And what does God say about human sacrifice?
Right.
It's something God hates. It's an abomination. Wouldn't even come into his mind to demand from us to make a human sacrifice.
Now, I made a smirk earlier about a lamb.
Yes.
Go with that for a minute. Why is there such a problem with him being the Passover lamb that takes away the sins?
First of all, hello, he was a human. He wasn't the lamb. Right. So calling him a lamb is, right. Unless you want to say, and you can sing with me, we are poor little lambs who have lost. Oh, you don't
I don't know that song.
You are so young. Or I'm so old.
And vibrant. That was for Jason. He's in Ireland, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, he has an English accent.
English, man. I can't pull that one off. I can do Australian. I can even do Sean Connery, but I can't do English, I don't think.
Sean Connery?
Sean Connery, yes.
Oh, my God. That's good. That's very good. At any rate, he was a human. He wasn't a lamb.
Okay.
Okay.
Can a lamb be used for a sin sacrifice?
Absolutely. But it's got to be female.
It's female. There you go. That's
again.
That's what I was talking about.
Pick up the Bible and read it. Show me one place where you can have a male lamb for a sin sacrifice. There is actually one place, but it has nothing to do with what Christians say Jesus did for them.
Right.
I can't remember what group it is. It's like, or what circumstance, but it's only one time. Normal sin sacrifices have to be a female. If it's a lamb,
if it's
it has to be a female lamb. Okay.
And just to fry your noodle, what other things can you offer for a sin sacrifice?
Let's see, wheat. You can.
How much blood has to be poured?
Your words.
How much blood has to be on the
12,
wheat?
verse 2. I'm sorry.
How much blood has to be poured onto the wheat?
You can't. You know what amazes me about that? William, it astounds me
Really
that they will say that the blood got put on top where the wheat goes. Okay. So wheat is also blood because the blood's up there. You know how stupid that is?
That, you know,
where's the fire?
Yeah.
The fire's on top. If you have a table and the fire is here and you put blood there, you're going to put the fire out.
Right.
How stupid can you be?
Right.
And if you actually, pick up the Bible and actually read it for a change,
sure.
Okay, the blood is splashed on the sides, okay, of the altar. But if you put it on top of the altar where the fire goes, you're gonna douse the fire with blood. Right. It's the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard.
Somebody had regarding Jonah. We're on the topic of no sacrifice needed, except like you said, the offering of the calves of your lips.
Right, the calves of your lips. Jonah also. What do the people of the book of Jonah, of Nineveh, do to obtain forgiveness from God? The king writes a decree. The people are told in this royal decree that they have to neither eat nor drink, which is called fasting. And what do we Jews do on Yom Kippur? We fast. They cry mightily to God. And what do they do? What is crying mightily to God? It means pray. And that's what we do all day on Yom Kippur.
Right.
Okay. And hopefully they are inspired by the day to stop sinning. Stop doing the bad, start doing the good. And then it says that God forgave them. Okay. So
Jason's got a question for you. He said he can't call in. You want to answer that in a few minutes?
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about that. Thank
Jason,
you,
we got you, buddy.
We got you. Jason, Spiritual Babies. And
spiritualbabies.net.
He has numerous interviews with Rabbi Skobach, Rabbi Singer, Jonah, other people, okay. And he also
we haven't yet. One of these days soon we'll get together. Yeah.
He also interviewed me about my book. So you should go to spiritualbabies.net.
He also has some of his own little tidbits that you'll love.
Oh, those are great.
Some things that I never even looked at before. It's really, really cool. Yes. Good job on that, Jason. Okay.
All right. We'll remind me about that. We'll get to that. Okay. So now I forgot what we were talking about.
Oh man. Okay. Jason, you got lucky because we both forgot what we were talking about here. The blood on the wheat.
Right. Blood on the wheat. We're talking about lamb.
Okay.
The lamb. The other problem with the lamb is the lamb was supposed to be unblemished. Everybody, the first thing you know about any animal is that if it was going to be used as a sacrifice, it has to be without blemish.
Oh, and he got beaten like
Jesus
beyond recognition.
He got whipped, and he was supposed to wear a crown of thorns every Passover because I'm not a nice guy. Okay, when my congregation has a congregational Seder, we invite the community, whoever wants to come, and people who are not Jewish come to our congregational Seder, and I make sure to say the following when we talk about, Gamaliel said you had to talk about 3 things in the Passover, or else you have not fulfilled your obligation has not gone out of your hand.
Okay.
That's probably too little, but one is the Passover lamb, the bitter herbs and the maror, maror, and the unleavened bread. Okay. By the way, did you know that in the Koine Greek and the Latin Vulgate, the bread that Jesus used consistently at the Last Supper is leavened bread?
Even in the pictures you see hanging on the walls.
Pictures is because they don't even, the pictures probably is because they read the Vulgate and the Koine Greek and it says leavened bread. It's like the difference between lechem and matzah, and consistently he's using lechem, not matzah. But at any rate, but anybody who knows anything about the Passover lamb or any sacrifice, it has to be without blemish. He also had the crown of thorns. So at the Passover Seder every year, I always make sure, absolutely, I make sure that everybody understands. I say, now remember something. Let's say if your lamb got into your garden and you beat the lamb or you scourged it, it couldn't be used because now its skin is blemished. Okay. Or if he got it, what if the lamb got his head tangled in the thorn bush and I go like this? Like a crown.
Man.
So anybody who knows anything knows exactly what I'm referring to.
Right.
Okay. But Jesus couldn't be a Passover lamb. First, he was human. Second of all, he was scourged and wore a crown of thorns. So he's blemished. And Christians, blemish means sin. And Jesus had no sin. Really? How does a lamb sin?
Exactly.
Can a lamb sin? No, of course not. So
we got a shout out to you from Donald K. Lord on Facebook. He says, I'm loving the show so far and just got the book. Excited to read it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Donald. Thank you.
Very good.
And Jason's question was about the app.
Yeah, let's go there.
The app. Let me tell you that I have my website, whatjewsbelieve.org, through which you can get the book Judaism and Christianity, a contrast. Also, creenciajudía.org is the Spanish translation of that website. The text of that website is both found in an iPhone app and in an Android app.
Okay. He asked specifically for Android.
Okay.
So just for all the others who wasn't privy to what we saw,
Right.
his question is, does he have an app for Android phones? And that's what we're trying to
Yes, I do.
tweak right now.
Okay. Both of them are called Jewish Mission Control. Thank you. I like that.
Very nice.
And coming from Houston, Texas, as in Houston, we've landed. Okay.
I was thinking more like, Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, thank you. But I call it Jewish Mission Control. So if you go to iPhone, iTunes, you can get the app through them. And you can go to the play.google.com and download the App Store and get the Android version of Jewish Mission Control. I must tell you that according to my app writer, okay, who is phenomenal, he wrote the app for the Android. Google changed something. And it meant that certain apps are incorrectly signaling virus.
Oh,
it's a false positive.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So, and my Android has no viruses, no problems whatsoever, but it will be registered as a virus on your Android Google phone. You can either ignore it or wait until he finally gets around to rewriting the entire thing. He said that he has to rewrite the entire thing beginning to end in order to bypass that false positive.
Shout out to David Katz.
Hi.
He's watching.
Hi. Thank you. I hope I'm not embarrassing myself.
Rabbi Katz he's tuning in, I believe, and we are going to have him in the show again. I think we've already got the date set, so look on Tanakh Talk and subscribe to anything that says Tanakh Talk, and you'll get all the updates. So, but anyway, thank you, Rabbi Katz.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I'm not embarrassing myself. I can't believe that guy said that. Did you know? Okay.
Hey, you know, I've always heard 2 Jews, 3 opinions, right?
You know what that means?
No. What?
Do you know what that really means?
Tell me.
Okay. How do we study Talmud?
You discuss it.
But how do we discuss it? We discuss it by you coming up with your idea of what it means and I disputing what you say. And through our conversation,
refine it.
And what do we call that? We call that thesis, antithesis.
Okay.
Together we make the synthesis.
Okay, got it.
There's your 3 opinions: the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis.
Interesting.
So 2 Jews, when they study by, what's the name of the movie with Barbara Streisand? Wait a minute. Yentl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbara Streisand.
Okay. In the movie Yentl, you see this.
Yeah.
Okay. They're on the cart and they're going to the yeshiva. And Avigdor turns to Yentl's character. Can't think of the name. It's Barbara Streisand's character. Turns to him and says, "We don't have anything to do. Let's study Talmud. You state the premise.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I'll refute it."
Yeah, I actually saw that movie the first time about 4 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Isn't that a phenomenal movie?
That was
and listen to the
amazing.
words of the music. Listen to the words of the songs. They're brilliant.
You know what really touched me about that movie? I've been hearing this forever. And this is something that moved me even more so in my transition out of Christianity and out of Messianic Judaism, because you hear the pastors say, "Oh, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning," and God came to, and you hear this randomly more often than not. But in Judaism, that's really so much. It's not just with the pastor or with the rabbi. It's like the culture of Judaism. The ones who are religious Jews, I hate to use that term religious, but
I think that's correct.
They literally study the Torah day and night in Tanakh, and it blew me away. When I saw this movie, man, I cried, dude. It was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. It really touched me, man.
I love that movie. There are so few. Look, Hollywood tends to be anti-religion, and Hollywood, including their secularized Jews, tend to be anti-Judaism. Okay, it's nice to see a movie for once, like Yentl.
Yeah.
Okay, that is not only positive towards religion generally, but it's positive towards Judaism specifically. And that's why the words to the songs they're just brilliant. You got to read the words. Okay, I'm a lyricist.
Okay.
So the words mean more to me than tunes. But at any rate, there's a scene in there where Avigdor says to Yentl's character, "You state the premise, I'll refute it." So it's by setting up this dynamic, this dialogue, this back and forth. You know something?
That's amazing.
My services on Saturday morning, part of our services includes a study of the portion of the week, Parshat Shavua. Okay. And I have people come who are searching. And one thing they are completely blown away by is that it's not the rabbi gets on the pulpit, tells the community, the congregation, what the Torah means. Mm-hmm. They write it down, go away studying it, and make it their own. Mm-hmm. They are stunned when we're talking about the Torah portion, and congregants will say, well, wait a minute, Rabbi, what about this over here? Well, I don't agree with you there. And they're looking at this like they're disagreeing with the rabbi.
Right.
Yes. You state the premise, I'll refute it.
Nice.
2 Jews, 3 opinions, the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis of the thesis and the antithesis.
Very cool.
So when they say 2 Jews, 3 opinions, that's really what they're talking about.
I'm glad you told me that, because I thought you were going to tell me the basic obvious that I thought.
No, that everybody disagrees with every. No,
that's really, so funny. Wow.
Yeah, that's the stereotype, but nice. It's based on the idea of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
Okay, let's see. There was another message here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, this one here. Nope. Hold on one second. I clicked on it once. It was the done okay, but he had a long message there, and I'm thinking there might have been a question there. Let's see. Likes. Okay, I may have to come back to that.
That's fine.
Okay, so. Okay, Jason usually. Okay, Shed. Okay, here we go. This might be over here. Oh, okay. That was Jason. Jason, right. Thanks for sharing the event too. And I'd like to recommend this not just for my stuff, but there's a lot of people on Facebook who follow along, like with me, with Jason and Jono, and even on Rabbi Singer's stuff. And I see a lot of people clicking the like button, and that's really cool that you're supporting it. But really, you might be able to reach more people, even yourself, if you will actually share these things on your wall. And I understand that some people can't do that because their sphere of influence, it would really cripple certain things. And I get that. But every time you get the opportunity, anytime you see something, Tovia Singer's got a new TV, what's it called? Tovia TV or something like that. If you see stuff like that, share it on your wall so other people can see that. Just by liking it, you're participating and supporting. But when you click share, you're spreading the word.
Spreading it out to all of your
So I encourage everybody to share. That's where the word really gets out. Okay, so. Okay. So anyway, this guy here, he was saying he's got your book. He's excited to read it.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I can't find that second follow-up message. Oh, you know what? I think I know where it's at. Okay. Go ahead real quick and conclude the why should people like Noahides, people who are just coming out of Messianic Judaism or even just out of Christianity debating on where to go, why would they benefit from this book? And I know the obvious answer is because it shows you the contrast. We all know that. Tell us.
But there are other reasons why. I mean, and actually, one of the critiques of my book is that I give too many quotations from the Tanakh on how we disagree. So it's not enough to say they believe, for example, Jesus died for your sin, Deuteronomy 24:16, every man dies for his own sin. That's not enough.
Okay.
So I will give as many of the other verses, and I don't just refer to them, I actually give them in my book, so they're right there for you. And I've actually been criticized for including them because it lengthens each chapter. And to me, the more evidence you have, the easier it is to understand and to accept what I'm saying is true. What the Tanakh says is true.
I would say that's to me would be the most critical. Is because I like hearing people summarize, but I want to know where it came from.
Exactly.
So the more references you can put in there, I think that's better.
But I don't just make it a reference like see this verse and this verse. I actually give the verses, which does make chapters longer than they need to be, and I understand that. But don't take my word for it.
Right.
Here's the verse.
Find it.
Here's another verse. Here's another verse, and the evidence mounts up where it becomes undeniable. And that's why I included.
Okay, here's Donald's full statement.
Okay.
To follow up, he says he can't wait to read the book. He says I could see these things and understand. I can understand them, but my 50 years of Christianity, it's hard to not only leave, but to even think about leaving. It's a hard thing. Any help or suggestions?
Yes. And I understand it's a very good question, and it comes up so often because there are people who will agree with everything that all of us in this say. Not just me, not just my book, but Outreach but they just can't let go of their Jesus. They just can't let go of their Jesus. They'll think of something that they think Jesus did for them. Okay. And they can't let go. Here's all I can say to them. Okay. You can either accept what the Tanakh says as authoritative, as valid, or you can reject what it says as authoritative and valid.
And then accept the New Testament in place of it.
Exactly. Okay. Or with it, in their opinion.
Okay. Right, right.
If you make the decision that the Tanakh is valid, that the Tanakh is divine, that it's not divine, but it's not, we don't worship the Tanakh, but we worship the one who gave us the Tanakh, the Torah. Okay. If you accept that as your basic first step, okay, then you have to reject Jesus. You can't say, I believe in the Tanakh. I believe where it says Hosea, me and numbers. I can't remember math. I was also bad in calculus in college too. Okay. As a matter of fact, you don't want to know about college and me. But anyway.
You don't want to know about me in calculus.
Yeah, right. Okay. Hosea chapter 11 verse. Okay. It says, I am God and not a man. Okay. Okay. You can't.
Doesn't it say there too, somewhere in there, and this is one that really stood out to me more, or just as much, it says, I'm not a man, or he presents it in such a way that says, I will not become a man lest you worship this thing, this image.
Okay.
Am I on the right?
And I think you are, but I'd have to see it. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. Okay.
I can't remember.
But my point is that if you accept the Tanakh as valid, as authoritative, as somehow, however you want to understand it, reflecting God's will, you have to reject the most basic elements that make Christianity what it is.
True.
Okay. And the only thing I can tell him is, I know it's hard. I know it's what you grew up with. And I know it's hard to turn your back on what is in error. But it is in error, because you cannot have it both ways. You cannot say, for I am God and not a man. You can't say every man shall be put to death for his own sin. You can't say
besides me there is no Savior.
Besides me, you can't say these things and then do the exact opposite.
Right.
Okay. The only choice you have is to accept the Tanakh as it is stated, and therefore reject Christianity, reject Jesus, or you can only reinterpret through the eyes of Christianity what the Tanakh supposedly says. It's your choice. Okay. And as I said earlier tonight, there are a lot of people who, when they leave Christianity, because they see that it's not valid, they see that it contradicts the Tanakh, the only thing they take with them when they leave Christianity is their misunderstanding of Judaism, their misrepresentations of Judaism, their antipathy for Judaism, and they're left with nothing. But even though they learned from the Christianity they left, they're still leaving with that.
Yeah.
And that makes it also harder to let go of Christianity, because they're taking with them as they leave Christianity their misunderstanding of Judaism and their antipathy for it. Well, if you're going to let go of Christianity, you have to let go of what they think Judaism believes too. That's why in my book I talk so much about law, because frankly, as I said earlier, Paul doesn't get it. He doesn't understand law. He makes a statement, the law cannot, what's his word? Special Christian vocabulary term, meaning justify. Okay. That the law cannot justify you. Whoever said it was supposed to justify.
Now, you know what? There is an opposite verse, a mirrored verse that he said, Romans 2:13. He says just the polar opposite, which I don't. Some people say it's because he was talking to a different people, but I'm thinking maybe
he did a lot of switching around based on who he was talking to. Yes,
and remember, like you said, he said to the to the Jews, I'll be a Jew. Right. So maybe that's why he was so double-tongued.
Right.
Possibly.
Right. But the point is Jews never said that we do God's law because it justifies us. I don't even know where he gets that from.
Right.
To be justified means to be freed from guilt of sin so that you can go to heaven. But we don't keep the law to be freed from sin. We only sin if we don't keep the law. At any rate, so a lot of my book talks about the law. But Christians are taught antinomianism. That's the fancy term for being against the law. Okay. And therefore they find it difficult to accept God's laws the closer they get to Judaism. Okay, and I understand his problem. I understand why it is so difficult, because you're not just giving up Christmas and Easter bunnies. Okay, you are giving up however long you've lived and been a part of the Christian community, and to turn your back on that, which is what has to happen if you accept the Tanakh as valid.
Right.
You've got no choice. I know how hard it is. But if you accept it, then you know in your heart they're wrong. You know that Christianity is in error. And if you know they're in error, it becomes easier to leave it.
Rabbi, there was an idea that came in my head that kind of helped me loosen my grips, or better yet, let it loosen its grips on me, was the idea of, and I've said this before, I think I even mentioned this on my testimony, but there was a video that I saw one time of someone who actually made a fake lottery ticket, right? And presented it to their mother for her birthday. And this fake lottery ticket was like $100,000, right? And these people were definitely not wealthy. And so as you see in the video, just everybody's bickering and just kind of bitter towards each other. And then all of a sudden she opens up this deal and she scratches off this lottery ticket and says she's $100,000. Her life was immediately changed. Her attitude was immediately changed. Her heart towards her children were immediately changed. Her life, she all of a sudden, instead of being down and depressed, she had life again, and she was vibrant. And you can see this video, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, that is so cold-blooded.
You're right, kidding.
This fake lottery ticket, fake, emphasis on fake, lottery ticket changed her life as long as she believed that it was real. Once they revealed to her that it was not real, that's when she had to pay the piper. That's when the reality hit her again, and it actually made it worse. So a lot of people who have left Christianity because they realized that was a brilliant fake lottery ticket, they're thinking, some people get angry. Some people get like, what do we do? You know, but encouragement for those type of people.
But you know something? I just responded to somebody who made this statement on Facebook. He made the statement that he hated the Christianity he left, and he hated himself for believing that. And I said, don't hate yourself. Don't hate the Christianity you left, because in doing so, you're hating yourself and you're hating what you were. But even though the lottery ticket was false, okay, even though it's a lie and it contradicts what the Tanakh says, okay, it helped you become who you are now. Okay, it helped you grow. Okay, don't hate what you were. Be happy that you're no longer in it, but don't hate what you were part of, because it helped make you you. If you hate what you were, you're hating yourself.
Yeah, right.
You're not just hating Christianity. You're not just hating the lies. You're hating yourself for having believed it. Okay, everybody makes a decision based on the knowledge they have at the time they make the decision. Okay, at the time they make a choice, they base their choice, what they choose, on the information they have at the time they make the choice. If later they find out that the choice was wrong because of new information, they can't get mad at themselves for making the choice because they didn't have the information. That's silly. That's a waste of your emotions against yourself, because you made the best choice you had based on the information you had at the time. Don't get mad at yourself for information you didn't have. That makes no sense.
Very good. Donald heard your response and he said, thank you. He's definitely going to be working on that. He'll help him.
I hope it helps.
So
I hope it helps.
Donald. Very good.
Know that the Tanakh is a gift. Know that it is from God, that this is what God wants from you. And that tells you you have to reject Christianity because it contradicts it in so many ways.
Right.
It's that simple. Well, it's not simple.
Yeah,
it's a simple answer. It's not that easy to do, and I understand that.
Very good. Well, closing comments you would have for, not only for, again, just to rescan, retouch up on your whole book, and I know you probably feel uncomfortable with me pushing your book this much, but I really, with just what I've read so far, I'm already hooked. I'm trying to work my time to get back to it. Just like this guy, he said he can't wait to read the book. I
do include at the end, the last fourth, third, I don't know, a list of 10 verses that people use to missionize the Jews.
That's what I want in my wallet.
Well, yeah, and it's also in the apps, and it's also on the website.
Okay.
In a smaller, less lengthy explanation form, but it's still there.
Okay.
But to me, I must tell you that it's the first part that talks about the theology and the basic belief systems of Christianity and how it contrasts with Tanakh and Judaism that is the substance and meat of things. Because like I said earlier tonight, we can argue all day long about the meaning of a verse. You got your opinion, I got my opinion, it's just opinion. Okay, but the real meat of the matter isn't what does Isaiah 7:14 really mean. Okay, the meat of the matter is every man shall be put to death for his own sin. Jesus can't die for your sin. It doesn't matter how you interpret Isaiah 7:14 because the basis of Christianity isn't a misinterpretation of Isaiah 7:14. The basis of Christianity is Jesus died for your sin that contradicts Deuteronomy 24:16. But I included the second part because it's not so much I wanted to talk about these 10 verses that come up most often when Christians are missionizing. It's because I wanted to talk about the various ways that Christianity goes about misusing the Tanakh, misunderstanding, mistranslating the idea of typology, or what's their other word for typology? There's another word for it. I forgot the word.
Error.
At any rate, I can't remember. Okay, but it's a typology or I can't think of the word.
Graphical error.
Right, but they'll say it's a type of Jesus.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
It's the various ways they misuse the Tanakh that I think is the more important part, rather than the application of those basic principles to Isaiah 7:14, 53, the whole, Jeremiah 31, the whole bit.
Very good.
Right.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to put the back up on the screen again, just so you can see. When you go to his website, whatjewsbelieve.org, this is going to be what you see. So you'll know you're at the right place. Yep. And do me a favor, Rabbi, just real quickly, tell them what you told me about why your cover is the way it is. That is so cool.
Marcy, my wife, she's the one who designed the cover with the slash, the Judaism.
Good job, Marcy.
Yes, it really is brilliant. But I'm asked, why black and white? Why don't you have colorful and make it attractive and all this stuff? First of all, it's one of the few books that's black and white on the whole bookcase, so it attracts attention.
Right.
But more importantly, it's because from my perspective, it really is an issue of black and white. It's not an issue of gray.
No gray areas, really.
No gray areas, really.
Nice.
It's really an issue of black and white. And Judaism, if you see the cover, is the light and the darkness. It's the white on the black. And that makes Christianity the darkness in the light.
Absolutely wonderful. Rabbi, it has been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. And thank you for doing what you do, William.
It's you know what? I don't even know how to answer that, but thank you for showing up. Thank you for coming.
Anytime.
And you guys, again, follow us. We're going to get him up in here again.
Anytime.
Maybe in studio, maybe Skype. We're not sure, but we'll definitely have some follow-up broadcasts with our beloved Rabbi here for the day. And so until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will see you on the next upcoming broadcast, which should be in 2 days, if I'm not mistaken, with Rabbi Skovak. Shalom, shalom. Thank you, Rabbi. You're awesome.
My pleasure.
חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה. אני אתה תן תמיד כולם ביחד. חשוב מכל חשוב והכרחי להיות ביחד. איפוק זו העוצמה, ויתור זו הגדולה, השאיפה והכמיהה.